Hello, this is the lesson video for Chapter 2, Part 1. Hello and welcome to Database Management. My name is Jose Gomez and today we're going to cover Chapter 2, Data Retrieval using the Select SQL statement. Today we're going to cover two sections. List the capabilities of SQL Select statements. Execute a basic select statement. The first section has introducing the SQL select statement, the describe table command, describing the human resources schema, capabilities of the select statement. The HR schema. This is an example database that Oracle provides and students can use. It's made up of 7 tables. It has the countries, departments, employees, job history, jobs, locations, and regions table. I'm going to go to SQL Developer real quick and show you what these tables look like. So we're here in the HR schema and we have the 7 tables listed here. I'm going to click on the countries table and I'm going to expand. And you can see that the countries table has 3 columns: country ID, country name, region ID. Next we go to the departments table. This one has 4 columns. We go to employees. This one has a little bit more columns. And as I'm clicking through the tables, you'll see all the data available. This week I'm going to give you access to the HR schema, so you'll be able to practice the exercises from the book. You also have a jobs table, locations, and finally regions. Okay, so throughout this video we're going to be looking at these tables. Okay, now we go to the SQL statement. It's the most commonly used command in SQL, created to retrieve information from a database table. And here we have 2 examples. So I can go back to SQL Developer and we're going to look at the first 2 examples. Okay, the first one says select, which means retrieve. Here we have a star asterisk, so that means give me all the columns from that table. Then we have the keyword from, and then we have the table name, departments. So when I execute this command, it's going to give me all the columns in that table. Alright, so that's our first example in our slide here. Right. So if I execute this, to execute a SQL statement, you place your cursor anywhere in the statement and you press the play button. Okay, not the play script or run script. You place the run statement. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and run it, and it's going to give me the output over here at the bottom. So we have 2 tabs here. We have query results and we have script output. So I'm going to look at the query results, and I have all the data in this table. I didn't have any restrictions. I just told it give me all the columns in that table. So that's what it did. So our second example retrieves 2 columns from the departments table. So in our second example, second select example, we individually name. We have the select command keyword. We name the first column that we want to be displayed, and then we name our second column that we want to be displayed, separated by a comma. Then we have the from keyword, and then the table we want the information from. And finally, the semicolon. Do not forget the semicolon. Alright? Again, in order to execute this statement, we place our cursor anywhere in the statement, or we select the statement. I guess it's easier to select, place your cursor anywhere in the statement. Again, we run statement. And now we only get 2 columns. We get department's ID and we get the department name. Okay. We specifically asked for these 2 columns. Right. This table has more than 2 columns, but we only want 2 columns. All right. We are not changing the table. We're just getting the data from the table and displaying it in SQL Developer. So that's a basic SQL statement. Now we go to describe table command. Okay, I'm going to go back to SQL Developer. And what the describe command does, it provides the structure of the table. It provides the listing of the columns and what type of columns they are, what data type, right? So if I execute the describe, and we use the DESC short for describe, and then the table name. Here we're using it without semicolon. This is the only SQL statement command that does not require a semicolon. So we place our cursor anywhere in the line. We execute. If you notice, we're not in the query results, we're in the script output. Right? So here we have the structure of the table, the employees table. So if you notice, we have 3 columns. We have the name, the null, and the type. Okay. In the name, we have the column name. First column is employee ID. Second column is first name. Third column is last name. We have email, and so on and so on. The second column is the note column. So we have constraints or rules that tell us whether these columns can be empty or not. All right. For example, all the records or all the 9 lines are supposed to have employee ID. Okay. They cannot be not null. All right. We can have a record where we don't have an employee's first name. Okay. Because we don't have a rule for that. Right. But we're supposed to have a last name. So watch out for the nulls or not null constraints or rules. The third column is the data type. Here we have a number, and it's a number data type, and it's a length of 6, so it has to be 6 digits. It could be 6 digits long, and we'll explain data types a little bit in more detail in later chapters. Okay. Now we go to the varchar 2 data type, and this is characters, and the first name can be up to 20 characters. Can be 1 character, can be up to 20 characters. Cannot be longer than 20 characters. Since this is not null, since we don't have a not null constraint or rule on here, we can have no characters at all, right? And let me show you the third data type in this table, in the employees table. We have date, and it's basically a date. Let me show you real quick what the different columns. We looked at the employee ID. It could be it's a number data type, and it could be up to 6 digits long. We also look at the first name, and we also look at the date column, which is the higher date, and that's basically what a date data type looks like. Now let's go back to our describe command. Okay, here we executed the describe command, which provides the structure of the table, employees table. Here we have the keyword describe, DESC, and then the employees table, and we don't have no comma. I'm sorry, we don't have no semicolon. Here we have the same command. This time we have a semicolon, and we're going to execute this. Before we execute it, I'm going to erase the script output, and then I'm going to get a fresh output, and it gives us the same output. What I'm trying to do is trying to show you the different ways you can get the table structure using the describe command. Now we have another way to get it, and this time we spell out the whole describe keyword, and we have the employees table. So I'm going to run the statement, and again we get the same output. This time I didn't erase the output, so you'll see that the output is on top of the at the bottom of the first output. Right. Again, this time we spell out the whole describe keyword and then employees table with no semicolon. Now we include the semicolon, and I'm going to erase the script output. I'm going to run it, and I get the same thing, the structure of the employees table. Okay, so we ran the 4 different ways to get the table structure. Okay, here's a screenshot of the output that we just reviewed. The employees table has the 3 most commonly used data types. It has the numbers, it has the varchar 2, and it has the date. The numbers data type is in this format: numbers, number 8 semicolon, comma 2. This is an example of the the salaries. The salary, it's 8 comma 2. What this means is you can have 8 spaces on the left hand side of the 0 of the comma, and 2, you can have 2 digits on the right side of the decimal place. Alright. The first, the 8, is precision, and the second digit on the right hand side of the comma is the scale. Right. So here we have another example, and here we have 9 on the left hand side of the decimal place, which is not 8, it's more than 8, so this is not valid. Alright. Now we go to the varchar, and we just covered it briefly, and it's I gave you the example of the first name and last name. Those are varchar, and I think they were the length was 20. Yeah, the length for the last name was 25, and for first name it was 20. So that means you can have, for the first name, you can have up to 20 characters. It can vary. It can be, since this can be null in the first name, we can have 0 characters, or we can have 20 characters for the first name. And lastly, the date. And let me show you just what the data type looks like. The hire date, it's first 2 digits for the day of the month, three characters for the month, and 2 characters for the year. The date can store the day, month, year, hours, minutes, and seconds. You can store all those time elements. I just talked about the human resources schema. This is an example provided by Oracle, and it's available to students for free. I already created it for you. I'm going to send you a Blackboard message with the how to connect to the schema. Now we go to capabilities of the select statement, and here we look at projection. Projection refers to the restriction of attributes or columns selected from a relation or table. Okay, so let's look at the examples in SQL Developer. Okay, again we have a select asterisk, which means give me all the columns. I don't have to name them individually, from table departments. So I run this statement, and here the projection is all the columns. So I'm getting all the information from all the columns. Now we go to more specific projection, and here I'm just selecting two columns from the departments table. So I have the keyword select. I specify the first column, and then I specify the second column and the table name. So now I run this statement, and I only get the department's ID, department name. Okay, the projection here is 2 columns, so I specifically specify what columns I wanted, and that's the projection. Now we go to the selection. In the selection, I'm going to talk about the where command or statement, and this is discussed further in future chapters, but I'm introducing the where clause just to show you what the selection capability does. Okay, so here I'm going to run select asterisk, which is all columns from departments, but here I'm going to specify give me only the department that is a department ID of 10. So I already ran it, and I only get 1 line. I don't get a listing of all departments. Okay, so this is the selection capability. So I'm able to select all columns, or I'm able to select individual rows or all the rows. Okay, so this is again the selection capability, and I'm using a where clause, which will be discussed in future chapters. Now we go to the joining capability. Again, this is going to be discussed in chapter 7, and I'm just using it for an example of the joining capability. What the joining capability does is it refers to the interaction of tables with each other in a query. So what that means is I'm getting information from 2 tables. I'm getting information from the employees table I'm getting information from the departments table. So in this case, I'm joining it. I'm using a left outer join, which again we'll discuss in future chapters. Alright, so I'm gonna run it. And the employee ID is from the employees table. The first name is from the employees table. The last name is from the employees table. And the department name is from the departments table. Right? And I'm using employee ID to join those two tables together. So we look at our File Explorer here. We see that the employees has a department ID column, and departments has an employee ID column. So we use these two columns from both tables to join them together. Alright, and this is the joining capability of the select statement. Okay, you're able to bring data from different tables together. This is a difficult concept to master, but with practice you should be able to master it, and we're going to have plenty of examples for that. I have the SQL statements. I'm going to make the SQL statements that I'm using available to you, and the best way to learn SQL is to practice. So make sure you practice these SQL statements, make changes, create new ones, and experiment with the database that is made available to you. That'll be the best way to learn SQL. This is the end for lesson video for chapter 2 part 1.